Good morning. Welcome to Ways Breakfast. Hashtag what are you saying? This is the show for the youth and the young at heart. And this is where we discuss the issues that truly shape our lives and society. Today's conversation is one we must all have, one that speaks for the silent, the unheard, and the unseen. Our topic for this morning is Safe to Speak, creating systems that protect victims before it's too late. We are going to be diving deep into conversations about abuse in marriages, domestic violence, the culture of silence, and the power dynamics that often keep victims trapped. My name is Triumph Akimboye, and with me this morning are my amazing co-anchors, Oluchi Omenka and Goodness Ideye. And shortly after now, we are going to be having Betty Abba, a renowned women and children's rights advocate, who will help us unpack these issues. But before then, let me meet with my ladies. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Today is Thursday.
Of course.
It's about time, for the end of the week. This is the time that I'm always looking forward to. But I don't know.
To me, it looks like the week is just starting because I just resumed yesterday. I started the week not feeling my greatest self, but so it's feeling like, oh, we're already wrapping up the week. But yeah, I'm excited. I thought we were going to talk about the newest thing that is trending, Triumph. I want to change career path at this point.
Well, it's free now.
I want to be doing TikTok live. Did you guys hear? Jadolita. People have Kuku said that I look like Jadolita. I don't know. You guys should judge. Do I really look like her?
Look at me.
I don't. She earned over 35 million naira
from her TikTok live.
This is the world that we're in right now. Digital creators are cashing out big time, guys.
I mean, that is even beyond the other, saying she did TikTok live and she got 35 million naira.
She was gifted, yeah.
She was gifted 35 million naira. Doesn't mean that maybe this is the first time. Usually when she does her TikTok lives, they are always gifting her from money. One thing to the other. Yesterday I had to start looking for the value of when they gift you, they can gift you art. On TikTok live, there's art, they have the coins. I think the coins is like the least amount.
I've never joined anyone's live, so I don't even know how it works.
So they can give you art, they can give you, what else?
There are faces of animals too.
Faces of animals, and it represents a different thing. I think if they gift you lion, I think lion is one of the biggest.
You can
and all of that. So I thought about that. Maybe we should even be going live all together on this program.
We're going live, guys. Gift us. But that's amazing. It shows us the prospect that we have. The times are really changed. I remember watching this on a blog, and people were talking about how lucrative this business is, and young people are making money out of it. We can laugh about it, but these people are making so much money just by being content creators, doing what they love doing. That's a profession.
Well, you know that she's not the goat of the TikTok, right?
But 35 million naira is something.
Hers was highlighted.
Yeah, it is.
35 million one. Do you know that is someone's annual salary?
She's always recognizable.
I was looking at the comment section.
Jadolita with her boyfriend.
Bella.
Yes, Pella. Yes, they are the two most youths that we have on TikTok that usually get more
highest paid.
Yes, highest paid on TikTok. And now recently, that was this concluded Big Brother Niger. We had this winner, Imisi.
Yeah.
She was also able to get something from TikTok. So people are not like, oh, what Pella could get on TikTok. Now, I think Imisi too can also try and make that move too.
In this same economy, everybody is saying we don't have money. People have money to gift influencers. Please, we're going live on the show.
We are going to start going live on this show. So gift us lion coins. We don't need much coins because I don't think that would translate to a lot of money. But gift us everything that is possible, right? So we are going to go on a very short break right now. Let us take a look into what is going on in the history. And when we return, we are going to get straight into the headlines to take a look at what is going on, what is trending presently. We will be right back. Please stay with us. All right, welcome back. If you are yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Official Upgrade TV, click the subscribe button now, like and share the link. Tune into channel 145 on your Go TV and do not miss any of this. Now, it is time for us to dive back into the latest news and current event. Let's take a look at what is making the headlines. We'll be scanning the pages of the Tribune, the Guardian, and then the Punch newspaper. And I am going to be starting with Goodness to take us through our papers.
All
right. I'm wondering why you started with me. Well, probably because my first letter starts first, no G, and I'm always taking the lead and the first in everything I am.
Your paper.
So some people are actually, haters. Now let's move on to the Guardian newspaper this morning, and it starts with leading as federal government begins public finance reforms ahead of new tax regime in January. This story is on page 6. Also, we have about 4 pictures. Wale Edun, our president. We have a military personnel there. And the story beside that says, Nigerian won't accept any deportees from U.S., Toga insists. And below we have federal government releases 32.9 billion naira to PHCs, ask communities to track spending. The story is also in page 5, and we have Northern leaders back Tinubu as opposition cautions APC and alleges attack. Also, Kano lists Sanwo-Olu, Wike, Umahi, Malami, and others as witnesses in terrorism trial. So we also have other stories on the baseline of the newspaper, but looking at the lead story on the Guardian newspaper that says, federal government begins public finance reforms ahead of new tax regime, in January. We'll be having this story back and forth concerning the new tax reforms that would take effect from 2026. That's like how many months away? That's about 2 months from now. So less than 3 months to take off the new tax system. The federal government has activated a broad package of revenue optimization measures, anchored in technology, institutional reform, and even physical transparency. So the series of this physical reform is aimed at winning the economy of dependence on oil, reducing revenue leakages that have plagued public finance for decades, and reducing the cost of revenue collection. So this new revenue, management rights, on a plan to streamline revenue collection process, which would see the Federal Inland Revenue Service, that's the FIRS, transition to the National Revenue Service, NRS, in January. I heard this story that now we've had a new name because of the transition, and it was just to make it like a broader view or a broader picture of it. So the FIRS we now know will now be known as the NRS, and the new tax BMOT will take the revenue collection responsibilities of the Nigerian Customs Service and other institutions. Let me hear your view. What do you say about this? Are you the tax policy and as well as the new reforms that's going to take place next year?
I watched a video on Zikoko Mag, I think yesterday, on their page on Instagram, and the thing is really turning out to have like different faces to it. They started, and at first we were very excited about the prospect of maybe low-income earners not paying as much, tax as we always expect. And then as the story started unfolding, started looking as if, you guys, this tax is going to touch everyone. I remember on my status, someone was saying that people should talk about this tax on your show. Apparently, she's a remote worker, so she earns in dollars from abroad. And I think those people, those set of people as well, they are about to experience taxation in a different way. Yeah. In fact, I recently saw that people who are using ChatGPT, all these AI tools, will start paying taxes as well. And so it's looking really a bit overwhelming and a bit confusing. I think Nigeria is gravitating, to that kind of state that is going to really be known as the tax-paying people. Literally on everything at this point. So I'm really hoping to see how it eventually turns out. So everything we're seeing now is still theory and theory. It only makes sense once it starts
fully activated.
Yes,
and that's when you made mention of people earning in dollars and everything. I remember the video of Pella when he was lamenting that why did they build him with tax? He's a social content creator and he's not working, so he's getting his money from his content.
You don't want us to get from the 35 million naira.
Even people that are sending money from the abroad to their family members, you're going to be taxed. Everything.
My own opinion about this tax state that I keep talking about is that as it should be, we are supposed to be paying tax. We are
Yeah.
supposed to be taxed directly on everything that we do. And there's some part of some institutions, some places that you go to get something that you will be taxed. And this tax is a whole lot. Let's even say that maybe how you're taxed based on maybe 7.5%. Maybe you are going to get something by the time they are calculating the VAT, that's like 7.5%.
Yeah.
Do you know what 7.5% is? If you're buying something of maybe like 1 million, I'm not very good with maths, but if you're buying something maybe like 1 million, more than 1 million, by the time you're paying tax, you're going to be paying tax of over 80,000 together with the 1 million. By the time you're looking at your total, you're beginning to see like a whole lot. But it also brings me to actually realize that these people that are being taxed, that they are feeling the tax, are usually the rich.
Yes.
Like that they are seeing it.
And
because
that's what
all you are
plays
buying,
in, the countries that
all
we
you are
see
buying
over.
is like, maybe let me just go and get biscuit, let me buy pepper. You don't know that people are actually paying tax. So when this tax reform comes, like people can see that, okay, everyone is paying tax. It just makes like everybody conscious. Although the way they do it in Nigeria normally is that if you are paying tax, you are not taxed on that particular item, but the particular company is being taxed for their production, for all their processes. So that is what they deduct, that they add together. By the time you are getting something and you are saying that, why is it expensive? It's expensive because you are paying the tax, because they need to remit their
So
tax.
if we're going to be following the pattern of these developed countries that are heavy tax-paying nations,
their economy is
I
strong.
want us to also get to that point where our economy becomes strong.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be using taxpayers' money to develop things. That's just how I'm trying to look at the whole situation, like to see the bright side of the story at the end of the day. Let it not be that we begin to pay these heavy taxes, and at the end of the day, our economy is remaining the same. That's
the
where we're
question
going
is
to
all
have
the taxes
issues.
that they've been getting. What have we been
Well,
saying? Is
well,
what
enough to sort.
I also read that low-income
Stop
earners
that.
might not be that, might not have to experience
Goodness, I'm
that
not
tax.
agreeing
So,
to
but
that
let's-
low-income earners. If any tax reform should happen, it's going to affect everybody. It might not be direct, but everybody will be taxed. Everybody
And
will
we're
be taxed.
waiting for it.
2026 is here. It's not far.
All right.
All right, let me take you through the
Oluchi.
Punch as well. The Punch has some really sad stories, starting with one that threatens our security. It says here, ISWAP threats, Southwest, North Central states on high alert. Governors and police tighten surveillance as Ayedatiwa and Ododo. Others urge calm amid ISWAP threat alert. Above that, we see electoral reforms. Senate pushes INEC to defend election result. Reps probe Jonathan's $460 million CCTV project. And then below the major headline, Sanwo-Olu and Monarch hail Oyebanji at road inauguration. Pardon me. Terrorism trial, Kanu list Wike, Sanwo-Olu and Buratai amongst 23 witnesses. Stray bullet kills tricycle riders outside Lagos, Bethel. Elumelu champions private sector as catalysts for growth. So it's a mix of different things happening, some set of good news, but this one that is really screaming in front of our faces is something that affects our security. Like I was saying yesterday when we were talking about the climate shocks and everything, I said one thing that the nation owes the citizen is the basic things, which include security, the environment, just ensure that we can sleep and wake up safely to fight another day, simply. But now we're seeing there are certain comments following the Department of State Service alert on Tuesday that there was a plot by the Islamic State West Africa province to attack Ondo and Kogi State. And they've activated surveillance and counter-terror measures against the ISWAP plot. So Kogi shares a boundary with 10 states. They include Benue in the east, Anambra in the south, Enugu in the southeast, Edo in the southwest, and Ondo in the west. Of course, other details showing how this concerns other states as well. But this is security threat. At this point, I don't know how these people get to this point where, ISWAP is already, because I had to even check, what's ISWAP? What does it mean? And I'm seeing Islamic State West Africa province. Why are they launching an attack? What could have caused this tension or conflict to want to now cause people to be extra alert? So some states have been mentioned here and have been want to be on on alert, as I've said. And I think for people who are staying here, who are probably watching us, this is time to be calm. This is time to be vigilant as well. And this is not the first time our country has been threatened, or our immediate environment, let me not use country at large, has been threatened by different things. Some people, we've spoken about banditry and all. So if this is happening, and some of these states have been mentioned, I'm hoping that the necessary bodies, the people in charge of security at this point, will tighten their security belts to ensure that no life is lost. And whatever has caused this conflict, please let it be sorted. Was it not earlier this week we were speaking about the aftermath of Biafra and everything?
Yeah.
I don't like, how I put it, interwars, like wars that are birthed because of, I mean, disagreement from different tribes and everything. This is looking like that because I'm seeing something religious here. I don't want to really jump to conclusion, but I'm seeing like, I don't know, honestly, but this is a security threat, and that's why I thought to read this so that we can be vigilant, stay calm, and of course, trust our security agents to do what's needful.
You know, in times like this, one of the things that I think about is that why are we always in this kind of situation? Yesterday, we were talking about banditry, you know, in Kwara State and all of that. When I mean yesterday, I don't mean like yesterday, but we were just talking about banditry in this state. But looking at this ISWAP attacks now, it brings like scare. I don't want to talk about religion now, but we should not be in that position as a nation that we have greater things causing like so much threat to the country at large.
Yes.
And we creating more threats in between
ISWAP,
each other.
IPOB. They're just a number around.
We don't need it. That is not the kind of Nigeria that we are all clamoring for.
Yes.
We believe so much in the fact that when people are coming from different backgrounds, different religion, we can come together to make things happen. That way we can be stronger because we have even greater battles to face as a country.
So religion and tribe should never be a reason why we'll be divided, but be in unity. Yeah. That's all I have on the punch.
Okay, so let me take you through the Nigeria Tribune news. I'm not going to take time. I'm just going to go through the papers that is quite interesting and then one that we've not spoken about. To the Tribune news, to the few papers that I'm going to be taking, ASU suspends 2-week warning strike, rejects 35% salary increase offer. I thought my ladies are going to talk about it because we were here saying that. But are we not supposed to be thankful that they finally suspended the strike?
But they've not resolved
It was
it
a
now.
temporary suspension. It's the same thing they do over and over.
So
Give us 3 months. We're going back to
bush.
Now they're saying that they're giving the federal government 1 month window to address their demands. So it is quite unfortunate, but I don't want to believe that, you know, the federal government is just going to quiet down on this whole
ASU will still come back next year again.
And to another sad story, I mean, I saw it yesterday, Niger tanker explosion, death toll 842. This is a very, very, very sad story, and our heart really goes to the people that they lost their lives.
Yeah.
Now to my story of interest, gold rises by 60% as central banks shift reserves away from US dollar assets. Now, the reason why I find this story disturbing is that according to this report, it says that there is so much more to tap in the gold part, the mining part of the industry than what we are even talking about with the US dollars.
Before. Hey.
So now countries are leaving US dollars, countries are trying to embrace gold, trying to embrace all of that, doing all they can, you know, with mining, with, you know, changing this thing, converting it into something that can generate them income as a country. But unfortunately, when we come to Nigeria, the story is different. We begin to talk about states like Kaduna, Ondo, you know, states that should be the one where we have like gold and all of that, that they're supposed to be exporting all these things. But it is not like that. Right here in Nigeria, we are dealing with illegal mining in this kind of situation. And see the situation we are in Nigeria. Maybe if gold could even help us to an extent. I'm even wearing a gold dress. Maybe if gold could even help us. But it's very sad that we can't even make do with what we even have.
Funny how I think some people are making do with it. It's just that it's not as prominent as we thought. I mean, it's recently I found out about gold investment and how people are tripling their finances by just investing in gold, and not just the physical gold now, digital investment of it. So I think that one helps to curb the security threats and all of that. But I love the fact that we're shifting our attention away from the US dollars
We are not the one
the world.
shifting, but Nigeria is refusing to shift.
We would catch up.
Because we really need
can
to catch up.
at
I
this
want
point.
to see some things from the federal government saying that these are the things that they want to be doing now. But I don't know.
Or we should strengthen our naira. Maybe our focus is to strengthen our naira at this point before trying to do what the world is trying to do.
Yeah, but aside even that self, the good aspect of it had been on board since, not particularly in Nigeria, but in those that trade well, like people that are so much into this digital trading. They prefer trading and getting more gold to save for the raining days than even the other currencies in the world.
Fingers crossed, because I cannot wait to start mining and making money and investing in
You
gold.
know how to trade. You want to mine.
So
you can start now, good. Trying. You can start. If you have some gold, I'll link you up.
Well,
thank you. Can we convert to this that I am wearing?
We can't, please.
Let's go on a very short break. When we return, we are going to get into our hot topic for this morning. Do not go anywhere. We will be right back. Please stay with us.
Tell us you're a Nigerian without saying a word. Energy security is one of the most pressing issues for many developing countries like Nigeria. And if there's going to be any meaningful progress, addressing our energy issues is non-negotiable.
I need to see light from my house. Make them do something.
Band A is expensive. I literally have to turn off all my appliances just to reduce costs.
We need light.
Introducing the Energy Outlook, your go-to show for everything energy. Every week, we'll bring you the latest insights, innovation, and in-depth analysis of Nigeria's energy sector. From policy discussions to regulatory insights, we will analyze the key decisions influencing growth and sustainability in the energy sector. We'll bring you the human stories behind the headlines, giving you a personal perspective on the broader energy challenges. Join me every Friday at 6 p.m. for the Energy Outlook, your guide to the future of energy, where energy means business.
Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population, and with little or no meaningful engagement, leaves a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change, both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say.
Welcome back. It is time for us to get into our hot topic for this morning, and we are asking the question, safe to speak, creating systems that protect victims before it is really, really too late. And we are not going to be doing this alone. I've got our guest here, who is a children's rights advocate, and she's going to be doing justice to this. We're having Betty Abba doing justice to whatever it is that we are going to be talking about this morning. So let us get into the details of it. In recent weeks, the conversations around violence and abuse within marriages and relationships has once again taken center stage, and not for good reasons this time around. From the resurfaced Mariam Sanda case to unsettling report about Regina Daniels and her husband, and the horrifying story of a man who burned his ex-girlfriend inside Oyo barracks, and so much more, it's becoming painfully clear that the cycle of abuse in homes and relationships is far from being broken. These stories raise a deeper question about the systems that are supposed to protect victims, systems that so often fail to respond until tragedy strikes. Behind closed doors, many people, especially women, suffer in silence, trapped between cultural expectations, fear of shame, and institutions that either dismiss or delay their cries for help. But this is not just about gender, it's about power, how it's used, abused, and protected. So this morning, we are looking into the theme, Safe to Speak, creating systems that protect victims before it's too late. Good morning, Betty Abba.
Good morning. Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining us. So we are going to be getting into what we are talking about now. The things that I really want us to talk about. Let's even get into the root cause of this rising cases of marital domestic abuse that we are seeing today. Is it that we are still trying to maybe maintain the culture, or maybe we are still trying to maintain silence, or is it that our systems are failing already? We are moving beyond what we used to do before and what we are trying to accept now, because it is different before. Even though these things might be happening in the past, it is not the way we are having so much of it like unveiling right now. Or what could even be the issue that we are having presently?
Thank you very much. I think there's a plethora of factors. But I think the main factor that I will pinpoint right away is systemic failure. This failure of our system to protect victims, the failure of our system to ensure accountability for perpetrators. So when people feel that they can beat their wives and get away, when people feel that they can even kill their spouses and get presidential pardon, when people feel that they can bribe their ways through the police station and there will be no consequences, I think that abuse will continue to be prevalent. It's most time I talk about rape. I use the instance of rape, and you see that in developed countries, the occurrences of rape is a bit minimal compared to what we have in developing countries like Nigeria. Not because the men in Nigeria or in the developing countries have more libidos. It's not just, that's not the case. I think human beings are different. The fundamental difference is in the laws, how the laws are applied in the two instances. So when people feel that they can rape and get away, they just continue. And then you have serial rapists. You have all kinds of people damaging children. But in the developed world, like US, UK, for instance, you could spend the rest of your life in prison for raping. And people think that's just not worth it. So it also applies to the instances of domestic violence, gender-based violence that we have here. When people feel there are no consequences, they just continue. So the law the system has to be more serious in terms of applying the law, in terms of prosecuting perpetrators, so that people can apply bricks, like we say in Nigeria, so that the instances can be reduced or even totally eradicated.
All right.
Okay, so now let's look at this situation. For instance, during when she was recounting her experience concerning about Regina Daniels and everything, but I don't want to let us go further into that. Concerning the safe system per se, in a situation where even in schools, because we have this kind of situation happening within schools, right? Among students and teachers, even students and principal, even down to the university level, we can find this particular situation in heat. How do you feel, or what do you feel is the proper way a victim should actually speak out in a safe mode, because in this country when we talk about security, it's just on its own side notes. Even generally in the nation, we're having insecurity issues. Now, among such culture or such system in the education sector, in the school, probably the secondary school, in the university, how do you feel is one of the safest way of a student or the victim to let his or her voice out? Because it could happen to whether be it a female or a male.
Thank you very much. I think the system has to make it clear that it is there in the interest of the victims, the survivors. The system has to be very clear in protecting everyone. And so when people know that when you report, you're not going to be shamed. When you report, you're not going to be victim shamed, you're not going to be victimized further, then people will be ready to open up. I graduated from the University of Calabar, for instance, and I'm sorry to say, one of the things that was a recurring decima throughout our years in school was sexual harassment by lecturers. And people did not speak up for so many years because there was no system in place to encourage people speaking up. There was no system in place to ensure that people are protected. And so there was silence until a few years ago when some people decided to speak up. And even at that, it took a very long time for the perpetrator to be brought to book. The victims were shamed, were threatened. And so it got, and at a point it became like an international shame on our institution, on our alumni school, on our school. So the system has, they should have a system in place, like a policy on sexual violence. When this is happening, report to social department, report to social person, report to social official, and then there are constant awareness creation from primary, secondary, tertiary, higher institutions, a lot of awareness creation, and then a tacit system, an established structured system that says this is what is due to the perpetrator. And everyone will sit up. It makes a whole lot of difference when people speak up. We've heard about persons that have been sexually abused for up to 10, 15, 20 years. And one of the things that ensured that the violation continued was buying the silence of the victim with threats. So when people know that if they speak up, the perpetrator will be brought to book, then they're encouraged to do so. So schools have to put in place policy on on gender-based violence. They have to put in place structures that encourage people to speak up. You know, in our society, we have this, the culture of silence. People don't want to speak up so that they will not lose their marriageability, so that they'll continue to retain their marriage material status. Families don't want to speak up. I run a shelter, and I've been into the gender-based violence work for several years now, and we see a lot of that. Sometimes you're trying to help a family whose daughter has been violated, and then they turn against you and say you want to disgrace them. And then some even decide to side with the perpetrator, especially when they are bribed. So we have to ensure that the system stands in favor of the victim, because most of the time, as we've seen in the recent time of Regina Dane and all of that, it's about power dynamics. It's about power dynamics. People, the perpetrators, most time have superior power. It could be financial, it could be political, it could be age, especially financial, over the victim. And then they are able to buy their way through the authorities. They are able to buy their silence. They are able to continue to perpetrate violence against victims, and they become serial violators, and nothing happens to them. So we need more people to speak up. Look at what has happened in the Senate. Natasha spoke up, and almost the whole world was against her. But at the end of the day, she's back in the Senate, and they cannot try that nonsense anymore. Everyone knows that this is a woman that knows her onions, that's ready to speak out and stand her ground till the last minute. And so it should be an example, and Natasha should be an inspiration to every one of us, both people undergoing abuse in any form, to speak up and stand by your convictions, and the world will bow to you.
All right,
but most importantly, the system has to protect. And then in Nigeria, for instance, we don't even have shelters. When people speak up, and then they have to leave the abusive environment. Where are they going to? We run a shelter in Lagos, and we're just one of less than 20 shelters in the entire country, shelters for abused women and girls. The government, institutions, philanthropists have to ensure that we have homes, we have alternative places, residences, transitional homes where people can step in and just stay in the aftermath of a violent relationship before they begin to think about fixing their lives in the next stage. There has to be institutional support. There has to be family support. There has to be all-round support.
All right, ma. So you've spoken well. You said concerning creating systems, and now this leads me to something which I'm going to read a report for you concerning where in such system we have even the high and mighty that are even indulging the corporate. Now there is a report I gathered. There was a recent case reported by the Foundation for Investigative Journalism, where the VC, Vice Chancellor, was reported to have harassed a female staff who is married. Right? And despite the reports, the VC has still been protected. And even the woman was even being shamed. And recently, a follow-up report on that is that the VC had even resumed his office. So in this kind of structure, where we have the high and mighty, even the person in charge, even formulating laws in such universities, how can we actually tame such people in a kind of system like that? Because looking at the situation of this woman,
thank you very much. I would say that it's a good step forward that the woman summoned the courage to speak up. You can just imagine other women, both married and married, that had become victims of this same person that wouldn't speak up for fear of retaliation, for fear of being shamed by the same society that should stand in their support. So it's good that it's already in public domain. The news is in public domain. The man knows he's under a lot of scrutiny. And I can assure you that this will not be the end of the case. This will not be the end of that particular case. So I believe that civil society group, especially feminist group, will continue to push for it, for the man to be prosecuted. And then the woman will be encouraged to speak up. So wherever she is, I will encourage her to continue speaking up. Because most of the time, in cases of people speaking up against gender-based violence, the one who speaks up, the victim, is always right. It's just in rare cases that people just frame people up. I can tell you that. Most people don't even speak up. So you can imagine the percentage of people, the silent percentage. And so I can tell you that that's not the end of the case. And the case can still be summoned. I'm sure it's already in courts. No matter what the step taken by the police to suppress the truth, the police and powerful individuals behind that particular VC, the case, this is not the end of the case. And we'll see the end of the case. And I can assure you that it will turn in the favor of the victim, the person that has spoken up. So let's just keep our hands crossed and keep a tab on it. And just to encourage every other person that is keeping silent, that there is need to speak up. There is need to inspire others to speak up. Because it makes a whole lot of difference. And even concerning with the VC, he knows he's under a lot of scrutiny, and he will never try that again. And then everyone around him has been encouraged to continue with that lifestyle of suppression and violence against vulnerable students and staff will sit up, knowing that the spotlight will be on them, and it may not end well.
You have spoken so well, and there is still so much more that we need to talk about. There are still different angles to look at, but we'll go on a very short break right now. When we return, we'll be able to talk more. Welcome back. We're still talking about something that is happening, safe to speak. How do people speak up? How should people continue to speak up? And we have our guest joining us, Miss Betty Abba, and she'll be doing justice to what we are talking about. And before we go further, you know, she has said so much about speaking up, whether these people are in power or whether or not they are not in power. Because that was what I wanted to talk about. That's the aspect of power and control, you know, marriages, not even maybe people that are not married. Some people have quite a number of issues too when it comes to speaking up. So still talking about speaking up, there's something that I really want us to talk about, and it is as regards, you have the Gen Z and then this new style of awareness with the Gen Z. There is something called, Gen Zs are not ready to keep quiet. Gen Zs are not ready to take in a whole lot compared to the way that people are taking it back in the day. So we are seeing them respond differently to abuse. They speak up faster, they call out toxicity online, and are less likely to endure. This generation don't want to endure. So if we look at it in another way, the other side to this is that it makes it feel like maybe marriage is becoming impossible, relationships are becoming impossible. Because why are you always coming out? There is a saying that maybe nobody is perfect, no marriage is perfect. So do you think that this generational shift is actually what we need right now? Or maybe that is not even what we need, and Gen Zs to maybe they should keep quiet? Do we still have you?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please go on. Yes, we can hear you.
All right. I was just muted. I don't know why. Okay, thank you very much. I think most of the time, in terms of the consciousness of the Gen Z, I think most of the time it's for good. There are things that our mothers accommodated that, of course, we're not going to accommodate. Many of them died silently. Many of them died untimely. Many of them lived below their potential because they had to endure marriages that did not contribute to their lives, that did not encourage their talents and potentials, marriages that stifled their potentials, marriages that threatened their lives. And so many people actually died, but the truth of their deaths were hidden. Domestic violence has always been there, as long as there's patriarchy, as long as people feel that when they marry and pay bride price for their wives, that they've bought them and they are their own property and they have the right to do as they wish with them. And so to juxtapose the two, the past generations and then the Gen Z generation, I will give kudos to this generation for speaking up. And I think the major factor behind this is the influence of the social media, the internet. People already know what's going on around. People get a lot of awareness and then about how to deal with relationship, about self-awareness, about confidence, about working out of relationship that threaten your life. So I think it's really good. But what I will caution against is putting everything in the social media. A wife quarrels with her husband and then she's doing live video. A husband quarrels with his wife, putting live video, is live on Facebook for people to see and all of that. I think there should be some kind of control. People should be able to use a lot of emotional intelligence in dealing with these issues. Because in some cases, after all the live videos and the publicity, the negative publicity, they still go back together. So why do you have to drag the marriage and the case into the public view? People really don't need to know everything. Even if you are taking the decision to leave, it's not compulsory that you have to put it in public view. And so there has to be caution. There has to be an application of emotional intelligence. There has to be discretion in some of these things. Not everything should be for public consumption. And then, but in general, I think that the consciousness that people have now compared to what we had in the past, it's a positive thing. It's a positive development. And you see more and more women doing very well. You see women that have been in marriages that were just very reckless, wretched marriages that stifle them. And once they step out, it's like stepping out into the light. And they thrive. They thrive because they just, they reclaim themselves. And then they have more encouraging environments, more convenient environments, and then they live their life. They're happier and they thrive. So when you're in a relationship that doesn't really do good to your soul, that has nothing good to offer you, that stifles your life, you just walk out and move on. And that's why we keep encouraging women to be empowered. Our society is a patriarchal one, where the power dynamics rest most of the time with the men. Men have more economic power. The women can ensure they get educated. Don't sit down and say you're a full-time housewife. You get educated, you get skills. Like I said earlier, I run a shelter. And most of the time, the women that come in are battered and, almost dead on arrival. are women that have no jobs, no work, no sources of livelihood. And so the man can beat them and then do everything and threaten their life and all of that. And they are just stranded, so they have to run into the shelter. Most of the time, some women have things to do. So with time, some of them that work, with time, after a few weeks, they move on, they get accommodation, and just move on with their lives. But others who have to look for some resources to get them accommodation, it's like starting from the scratches. When you are a woman on your own, when you are earning, when you have a job, you may even be the breadwinner. The man cannot just come and try to manhandle you, knowing that you are a woman on your own. You can stand on your own. So we have to encourage people, get good education, just strive to get good education, get skills, get a good job, have something doing, even if it is buying and selling. And then you can always move on with your life so that you're not stuck in very violent and life-threatening relationships. It's just not worth it. You can even move on with your children, take care of them. They just have to be alive. And so women need that economic independence. So it's one of the things that the new era consciousness has created. And I really think that it's good. It's good.
Thank you very much, Betty. Firstly, I'd like to commend what you do and the shelter that you run, seeing that it's not something that is very common in our country today. But I even want to ask, before I go further to the question that is really bothering me, because this conversation, we spoke about it last week as banter on the table, and it's something that just causes me to worry at what happens in marriages. The shelter you run, is it just a shelter for women only who have been abused, or does it also accommodate men who have been abused as well? Because in today's world, we're seeing that thriving even now.
Yes, I think the shelter is for women and girls who have been abused.
So there's no much focus for the men for now.
Yeah, so I'm coming to that. The shelter is for women and girls who have been abused in terms of domestic violence, and then for rape, mostly the girls, the teenagers. And so I actually I think I admit the fact that we don't have shelter for men. As far as I'm concerned, in Lagos or anywhere in Nigeria, House on the Rock used to have a shelter for homeless men. I understand it's shut down now. And so people call our lines on our Google page all of the time and say they are men, they need shelter. Some could be issues with accommodation. Some could even be issues with gender-based violence at home, where their wives are violating them or trying to attack them and all of that. So we actually need shelter for men as well, because men can also be victims of gender-based violence, of domestic violence. Abroad, we have shelters for both men and women. We have shelters, we have animal shelters, we have homeless shelters. Thousands and thousands in Canada, for instance, thousands and thousands of shelters that cater for different categories. And so it's actually something that we should learn. We should be a society that cares for our own. And I think getting shelter for men is something that should be on the table. But why women's shelter is always in the news is because most of the time, the highest occurrences of violence, gender-based violence, or domestic violence that we have is against women. So that's why it's more predominant, though it's even very few in the country, like I mentioned.
Okay, yes, you are right with that statistics you gave. The focus many times is on women because we hear more stories and more cases. But in recent times, when I was talking with my ladies, we had to just even look at it. Why is it that in these recent times, the stories we're hearing are women who are murdering their husbands, setting their husbands ablaze? I mean, there are different case studies that really went on social media. And the only question that came to my mind was, I just saw a decadence in what's happening with marital union at this point. So it's more like a violence that has now spread. It's no longer a patriarchy thing as we used to think. It has now spread across board. And I'm wondering how this started in the first place. And I know we have shelters that, help with women, children, and all of that. But I'm thinking more beyond trying to now prefer a solution. What is really the cause of the extreme measures that people who are claimed to have been in love are now taking these days to the point where people are ending their life in the most brutal format by setting someone ablaze. Setting someone ablaze is a very premeditated action. It's not just stabbing. I mean, you have to bring something to cause that inflammation, set the person on fire. And this is happening in marriages, not just for the men this time around, but for the women. So I'm wondering, what sort of moral decadence, or what's really happening with marital union in our country today, or in our time today, that seems to have been different? And how do you think moving forward we can begin to reorientate people so that we're not just focusing on just some set of people and the usual stories that we're used to? Because I was telling someone that it looks like the devil is working overtime, because these stories that we're hearing, they are quite scary. It's not the normal kind of stories I grew up hearing as regards, you know, gender-based violence or even abuse in marriages. So what's really the cause of this, and what's being done to change people's mindset?
Okay, thank you very much. I would say that it's societal pressure. It all boils down to societal pressure, especially economic pressures. Since 2020, the rate of gender-based violence, the rate of domestic violence, either against women, against men, has really escalated. And it's one of the reasons why we started the shelter in 2021. So the Lagos State Domestic and Sexual Violence Agency comes out with statistics every single year. And every year, the rate of violence against men is increasing. Men coming to their office and reporting violence against them, domestic violence against them by their wives, is increasing. And especially maybe men that have economic control of the house. Sorry, the women that are breadwinners and all of that. And so I believe it's something that has to be attended to. It should push us to consider, to put on the table the need for men's shelters. And also, your wife or your husband, you know that you've also practically shut down your own life. I lost a nephew in August 2018 from domestic violence. And this is something that had accumulated over the years. And he didn't tell us. He hid it from every one of us. And before we knew, in August 2018, we got a call that Lawrence was dead. He had been stabbed by his wife with a knife, and he bled to death. By the time he got to hospital, it was too late. And so if he had reported, of course, we would have been able to find a way out. We would have been able to even rescue him out of the marriage, because he lived in Lagos here with us. And so men have to report, men have to live outside this ego, this ego that I'm a man, I cannot let people know that my wife is violent towards me. There are women that grew up in violent homes, in abusive homes. And so if you are, as a boy or a girl, a child, major feature is domestic violence. Mother and father fighting, stabbing themselves all the time. Most likely they will end up as a violent as abusive partners. And so you have women that beat their husbands, that wound them, that abuse them in so many ways, physically, psychologically, in every way. And so I would tell such men to just move away, because like we always say, live to live. And that applies to both men and women. You just live to live. So I would say that in societal pressure and the fact that the scale, the rates, the occurrences of gender-based violence is on the rise. As that against women is rising, the one against men is also rising. And so that's why you have that number. But again, we have to keep cautioning, because at the end of the day, you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison, and everything about you is lost because of that violence. And I tell people, when you have a case of an abusive relationship, when it tends to become violent, most likely one of the partners will end up dead, because it's a matter of hitting here, hitting there. One day you hit the head, or the person lands on the chest or on the head, or gets a blow on the chest, and that's all. So most of the time, people in abusive relationship, either the men or the women, are actually walking corpses. They are walking dead, and it's just a matter of time. So if you are a man, just work out and see how you can just move on with your life, even if it's a temporary thing, until things are settled. But most likely, people don't even change. So I would just advise you, just move on with your life. People basically don't change. People that are socialized to be violent to their partners because they saw their parents being violent, they hardly ever change. People hardly ever change. So when you see yourself in that kind of situation, you just move on. And I keep saying, marrying the wrong partner. When you marry and discover that, no, I shouldn't be here. No, I'm not meant for this kind of person. We're not compatible. There are traces that I just cannot live with. You move on with your life, because the choice of marriage is just like the choice of every other thing. You get into a career and you say, no, this is not for me, and you move on to another career. I mean, so you can move on. There's nothing like, if you are married, you are married. Marriage is like okrikabe. When you open it at home, anything you see, just manage it. There are things you just cannot manage. This is about your life, and then you just have only one life. So I think that generally we should look at the possibility of having shelter for males as well, because it's very, very critical.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Betty Abah. You've said so many things. You've said so much, and this is where we are going to call it a wrap for this morning. I wish we could take more things. There were other things that I really wanted to discuss, talk about communities and a whole lot. But we are just going to stop here this morning. But let's not forget that at the end of the day, silence has never saved anyone. If we truly want a society where people feel safe to speak, we must build systems that listen, protect, and act. Not after the damage is done, but before it's too late. Abuse doesn't thrive because of anger alone. It thrives because of silence. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you again tomorrow. Bye for now.